Now, onto the methodology. So, first of all, it's really cool that you guys want to test mobile applications, but what's really, really important as well is that you pick the right platform and the right target for you. Because if you pick the wrong target, you might think that the type of vulnerability you are looking for doesn't even exist in the wild. But guys, guess what? These dependencies are highly these vulnerabilities, I mean, of course, are highly dependent on your target as well and on what technology they have underlying, but also what type of business logic they have built into them. So it's very important to pick your platform properly, and there are three major players in my opinion. Those are just the major ones. Of course, there are also some smaller players, some private platforms like Synack to which you have to apply, and then there's programs who have their own security.txt on the website. We can do some Google dorking to find those. There's also firebounty.com, which collects all of these security.txt files into one big searchable database. So with that in mind, I'll describe the big platforms first. For me, my favorite would be Integrity. I really, really love Integrity. It's kind of become my home. This happened because when you actually report something on Integrity and it turns out to be an invalid vulnerability, you don't get negative points as of the recording of this video, which is the 28th of January 2021. I mean, sorry. It might be changed in the future, so make sure you check that. It also happens to be that in Integrity, there is a lot of the types of targets that I like to hunt on. There's a lot less competition than some other big bounty platforms, and there's also a really, really good community support for us. Because if you do report a few good vulnerabilities, you might get invited to their Slack channel where you can talk to the people at Integrity directly. That will make things a lot easier if you have some questions, of course. Now, all of these points are based on my opinion, guys. Opinions can change and alter over time, so it's really important that you do make up your own mind and think a little bit. You need to pick a program that's right for you, and I encourage you to check that out yourself. Now, these bullet points that I've made are useful, but you should always do your own research, of course. You don't have to pick one of these major platforms. That's also very important to know. You can choose a regional or smaller platform, which might have a lot less competition, but then also they will have a lot less programs to pick from. Now, Integrity, they have a little bit of a smaller selection as compared to bug6 or HackerOne, but that's not necessarily a terrible thing in my opinion. It's about the quality of the targets that matter, not about the quantity. That being said, I in no way am convinced that HackerOne or bug6 contain negative targets, like these targets which have very small scopes or which don't have a lot to hack on. I am in no way convinced that the bigger bug bounty platforms have a lot more of those. Let that be clear. So what's also going to be a disadvantage for some of you for Integrity is that their programs are going to be in Dutch or some other European language. But that can also be an advantage if you just install the translator plugin. It's a barrier for English-speaking people, and that's really an advantage for everybody as a hunter, because if barriers are raised, other hackers drop off, which gives us more chance for actually finding those vulnerabilities without them being a duplicate. Now, there could also be a little bit more public programs, in my opinion, on Integrity, but there's at least a very good selection to start up with and to choose from. HackerOne, I don't have a lot of experience with that platform, but they host CTFs that gives you private invites when you find a flag. Really freaking cool. They have a huge selection of programs, a huge selection. They have great triagers as well, and they'll actually help you out, and they'll write comments on your report, which will guide you in a direction to help you along on your journeys. Really important for me that they don't just say, okay, report invalid. If you create an invalid report, you will get negative karma. However, get too much of that and you will have to prove yourself in a trial period. This means that you can't submit for a number of days, and if you do, you have a number of reports, number of trial reports to prove yourself. Since it's also the biggest bug bounty platform, there might be quite a lot of competition, but also a lot of targets to distribute your competition upon. As for bug6, they have a lot of positive items as well. They have a huge selection again, but those are the guys I am least familiar with, so I don't have a lot to say about them. As for picking a program, for me again, it's like picking a shoe. Make sure that you pick a program that fits, because you don't want to walk on blisters all week long. Believe me, you don't. And I really want to always test applications that have a lot of functionality in them, preferably even different levels of privileges, where I can create my own users even. Those are usually business to business applications, and I'll update these examples as well with some more that have mobile applications in them. Some general tips: try not to take very broad scope targets. Recon is going to do you no good in mobile pen testing. It might do you a little bit good, but it's not going to be the end all be all. Take a main application that has a lot of functionality in there and make sure that you focus on the things that we will talk about in a few moments. Now, as for vulnerability or paid programs, I usually recommend vulnerability disclosure programs where they give you points, no payment, because when you do, there will be less hackers, because there's no pay again. Less hackers is always good for us. They might be a lot less hardened due to their nature as well, since they don't have to pay you money when you find a vulnerability. And if you get some points, you will get private invites, and you will get points if you report vulnerabilities that are actually good. So fine-tune your strategy on vulnerability disclosure programs, wait until the paid programs follow, and then hack like your life